Hey, everybody. Quick bit of background on what you just saw. That outdoor concert took place on June 1st, 2021 in the town square of Brave, Ukraine, as a celebration of International Children's Day. This was the first time many of those children you saw had ever played an instrument. The choir learned and memorized 5 songs in 4 different languages in just 6 days. And this was Music Camp International's first on-site music camp since the pandemic. A very sad postscript to this. This town square now does not exist any longer because of the invasion of Ukraine. So more on this as I talk with our special guest tonight, Connie Fortunato. For now, a warm welcome to new and returning friends for this special edition of Brave Troubadours. I'm your host and executive director of Music to Life, Liz Stuckey-Sundy. As many of you know, Music to Life was founded by me and my dad, Noel Paul Stuckey, of the 60s folk trio Peter, Paul, and Mary, to support the work of musician change agents in communities around the country and now the world with this show. Working behind the scenes tonight is our amazing team: Esme Cole, producer; Paige Manisi, assisting; Randy Harith, managing our marketing and comments; and special thanks to Pace University senior Sarah Morg this evening for helping develop our run of show. Brave Troubadours has support from the ASCAP Foundation and you, our amazing viewers who are watching us tonight on YouTube and Facebook. We rely on your continued support to produce these shows, so thank you for your donations and tips. And for tonight's show, we specially thank our friend DC Dennison, thank you DC, for her generous support and for introducing us to Connie Fortunato. So thanks to DC. All proceeds tonight will support Connie's work with Music Camp International. And finally, we would love to get some quick demographic information from you. Tell us where you're coming from. Click on that 1-minute survey link in the comments bar. And then if you have any feedback on the show, go ahead and send it to us via the comments box or on our website. We really, really appreciate all that you do to help make Brave Troubadours the best show that it can be. Thank you. So almost time for the music, but I just want to take a moment because Randy actually told me this afternoon that today marks a month since the beginning of the war in Ukraine. And coincidentally today, I happened to revisit a song from 1967 that just was so relevant to this moment that I'd like to share an excerpt. The song is "Let's Get Together" by the Kingston Trio. If you hear the song I sing, you will understand. You hold the key to love and fear, all in your trembling hand. Just one key unlocks them both. It's there at your command. So come on, people, now. Smile on your brother. Everybody get together and try to love one another right now. So we are in the presence of a visionary woman. Sorry, I'm a little emotional. It's emotional time. We're in the, that's right, Connie and I said, by the way, before the show, to have a box of Kleenex ready, which I did not pull down in front of me, but it's right over there. So if you see me reaching across the screen, that's what I'm doing, is pulling down my Kleenex. Anyway, we are in the presence tonight of a visionary woman who, even within the terrifying challenges our Ukrainian friends are facing, is shining light upon fear, bringing love into darkness, and unlocking hearts through the power of music. So here's a quick peek at Connie and her work, and then we'll come back and see her live.
I think music, in some ways, is the science of the soul. It's the science of the inner life.
Children can discover who they are and what they have inside.
In an ensemble, you learn compassion, you learn empathy, you learn discipline, you learn languages, you learn history.
And so many children that we work with have lost hope.
Connie believed in me. That's changed my life, and I started to be a musician.
We believe passionately that music feeds the soul, and as the soul is fed, the child grows in a holistic way. It's changing a culture. It's changing children's lives. I believe powerfully that we're making a difference and we can change our world.
Yay, Connie. Here you are. Here we are. We did it. So nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
So I'm going to start with a quick background, just to orient folks to your amazing story. So Connie is a music education professional with more than 40 years of experience. She began working overseas in 1993 with a focus on orphans in Romania. And by 2000, she had conducted a music camp for children in 3 Romanian villages, which was a first in a post-communist country. Since then, her passion has led her to Ukraine and to the larger cities of Romania. She now regularly works with the Ministry of Education and Departments of Social Services, and her work crosses all social, economic, and religious barriers. She brings children together from all extremes to form one big family that works together, respects one another, and achieves astounding results, transforming children, communities, and countries. I have a picture for this next little piece. In May 2014, Connie was named Honorary Ambassador of Peace for Ukraine, the only non-Ukrainian to ever receive this award. And her proclamation was signed by Petro Poroshenko, who was elected president of Ukraine 2 weeks later. So as you'll learn, Connie believes that all children are talented, and when involved in a dynamic and positive learning environment, they can break through the limitations of the system or society that fails to connect with their inner giftedness. There you are. So I want to understand, you have so much to tell us. I want to understand the connection between this, because you clearly have a fire inside of you. You clearly have your own kind of personal vision and drive. And I'm curious how that shifted into this formation of this organization.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure that is in so many circumstances, the various threads of my life came together. Really, at a certain point, I happened to be watching a Dateline NBC television special on the plight of the Romanian orphans. I was horrified. And at that time, about 150,000 Americans were so deeply moved that they went to Romania to adopt children. The program grabbed me in a very different way. I wanted to go and heal them in their context. I knew that music could release them from their traumas. I knew it could give them the dignity, the courage, the hope, the community that they had been deprived from. And so we took our first exploratory trip in 1992. And actually, it was through the encouragement of a colleague from the United States who was teaching at a university over there and knew of my work here. And she said, "Have you ever thought of doing a music camp here?" And I said, "No. Do you think it will work?" And she said, "I know it will. And I will give you my music ed students as your pilot staff." And so that's what we did. A small village of Coronin in the southwestern corner of Romania, just down where the Danube turns and begins to go east. And that's where we were, and that's where Music Camp was born.
That's wonderful. So we want to keep learning about your work. But I feel like this next video does a good job of seeing you and your work in action. This is the one, this is one of your music camps with blind children that was organized in collaboration with the First Lady of Ukraine. Can you introduce this video for us just a little bit before we see it?
I can. One of the things that became very prominent in my vision as I explored and learned the culture, lived with the people, never once stayed in a hotel. I stayed with the people. I live with them. I talk with them. And I realized that there were so many children that were pushed to the sides of society and their needs were not met. Some of the most tragically pushed away were children with special needs. That was considered a blight on society. So many of these children spent their lives in one room. And I decided that I wanted to take on the prevalent mentality, which is if a child has special needs, then he or she is not intelligent. So if you're blind, you're stupid. And they remind you of that constantly. And I wanted to show them the difference. And so it was through the graciousness of the First Lady of Ukraine that I even had access to these institutions. They were not places where people are allowed to go. But when you have the First Lady advocating for you, you can get to some creative places. And this shows some of that work.
That's great. Thanks.
In May 2009, we conducted a music camp for blind and visually impaired children. Every day we arrived early at boarding school number 11 and worked with 88 children with visual impairment and eye disease from 8:30 until noon. Then we packed the team into the van for the drive through the city traffic to boarding school number 5, where all 120 children were completely blind. Many were orphans. Life inside the halls of school number 5 was dark and filled with despair and disrespect. All these precious children were pushed around like excess baggage. They were regarded as non-productive, non-intelligent, and not worth much more than custodial care. Music Camp International brought quite a different message. The children were given love, respect, dignity, and encouragement. They were given instruments, hand chimes that they learned to ring in perfect time, their amazing ability to speak chord names and melody patterns, and their innate sense of feel equipped them perfectly to master Bach's Minuet in G. The personal impact was beyond measure. Yulia, who had sat in a corner as a vegetable for 2 years, discovered so much joy that she danced down the hall to music camp. In choir, she sang every word and never missed a note. And in hand chimes, she rang with confidence and dignity. A whole new person began to emerge. And then there was Lilia, who greeted me our first day in perfect English with, "My name is Lilia, and I'm stupid." But she discovered that she was really talented. She no longer had to believe what she had been told for so long. She had discovered a part of herself, and it was smart. We also had classes in Orff percussion instruments, recorder, guitar, and violin. And in every class, the children discovered new talents and found dignity as they realized that they had talent and worth. Then came their big day, May 30th, 2009. First Lady Mrs. Yushchenko spoke to the audience, many of whom were wiping away tears. I was told that this was to be a concert given by disabled children, but I have not seen any disabled children here, but only gifted and talented children who have no limit to their abilities.
So wonderful. I have so many questions for you, but I do want to, this one in particular, you mentioned kind of, again, it's sort of following this program, the ripple effect, sort of the impact. And obviously, you know, there's never one reason that society changes, but this played a profound role in a whole series of changes that started happening.
It did. I did not know, but in 1917, following the Russian Revolution, the identity cards of all special needs children were taken away. The effect is that for all practical purposes, these children did not legally exist. And as I mentioned before, so many of them spent their entire life in one room. The thing that this particular concert that we've just viewed a little tiny window into, the thing that it did is actually after the children sang in a facility called Ukraine House, they went out onto the outside steps. We moved the orchestra out. Mrs. Yushchenko came out and they sang, and it was seen by 40 million people who could not argue with the fact that these blind children were talented. And it began to awaken um, a, a realization that just because the child had a special need did not mean that he or she was not talented. Quite the opposite. Maybe they were extremely and excessively talented in another way. And it wasn't that they weren't smart, it's how they were smart. And so the ripple effect began. And certainly, Music Camp was not the only organization, or we were not the only group of teachers, but we ignited a spark that then started to catch all over the country. And in 2017, October of 2017, 100 years later, the Ukrainian parliament passed a law that returned the identity cards to all children with special needs. And it was astonishing because now they were allowed to attend public school. And I'll never forget the Minister of Education called me and she said, we were just celebrating and just beside ourselves with joy. And she said, it's wonderful, Connie. It's just, we don't know what to do with them. Can you help us? And so it was the British consulate that actually funded a teacher training seminar that we could begin to talk about how do you teach and how do you work with children with special needs. And I have to tell you, it has been very successful and very contagious as it has spread throughout the country and that part of the world.
That's just fantastic. That's just fantastic. I do want to turn to Ukraine and sort of what's happening right now. And I feel like this really is at the heart of what brought us together initially was, you need to talk to this woman. DC said, you need to talk to this woman about how she's bringing her compassion and her talent and her sort of innovation to just helping in whatever way she can with what's going on. And so help us understand sort of the situation from your perspective, particularly given the children and the groups that you've worked with in Ukraine.
Yes, well, of course, this is it is a very emotional time. I too always need a box of Kleenex close by, because these are my kids. In the last 20 years in Eastern Europe, we've worked with over 30,000 children, and I have teams in both countries. And so it's a tremendously emotional time. One of the really special things about Music Camp is that we literally have worked in all of the regions of Ukraine. We've worked in over 20 cities, all the major cities, almost all of the medium cities. And we've been in the West. I think we have a map of Ukraine that might just help us visualize it a little bit. But over there next to Poland, which we've seen so much on the news, is Lviv. And we've done music camps in Lviv, I think 3 or 4. We've been at the Philharmonic. If you go to the south, the southern border, the beautiful port city of Odessa. Odessa has one of the most beautiful opera theaters in the world. It is on a par with La Scala. I did a project there in 2008 that had 1,000 orphans, and we had our concert at the Opera Theater in Odessa. If you move on to the Crimean Peninsula, and I think if we can look at that picture there of Artek in 2008 music camp. That's the one with the children, I think, and that's the one right there. We actually set the Ukrainian Book of Records at that camp facility. It's the largest children's camp facility in the world. I've In 2014, we were in the war zone in Lysychansk. It's the only time with my team that when we went to bed at night, we could hear bullets. I've been at the Opera Theater in Kharkiv, which is the northeast corner. It's the second largest city in Ukraine and has been deeply, deeply damaged. So many of the areas, when I look at them, it's like, oh, I've been in that shop, I've been in that store, I've taught there with the children I taught in the university. So it's been a really unique experience to work through all the areas of the geographic areas. But the other thing that has been so special is we have also worked across all economic boundaries. We've worked with the children who are poor and come from families where they don't know where their next meal is coming from. We've worked with those who come from traditional families. We've worked with those who are the children of some of the prestigious officials. So we've worked, and everywhere we go, we create one family. And what has been so special is, as we've also changed the adult mentality in terms of accepting children with special needs, we have adjusted the mentality of the youth, and they are now finding their peers in special situations. They are also feeling a tremendous amount of social responsibility. I've been in so many camps where after a day or two of just watching the team and how we operate, how we speak to each other, they speak to each other differently. And I'll go to help a student and they'll go, oh, that's okay, Miss Connie. I'll take this person here. I'll do that. I'll help here. And so it's changed a mentality. So much of the time in your post-communist countries, there's that question from ancient history. Am I my brother's keeper? And I have to say that most of the time in your post-communist countries, the answer is no, the government is. And they are learning that the answer is yes, I am. And I can make a difference. And my responsibility, I don't need to be affluent, because the greatest gifts in life are not gifts that are bought with money, but gifts that we give of ourselves. And we model that and we live that. We live that as a team and we live it with the children. And it has made a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wonder, you tell me, Connie, but I wonder if we want to go back to the map for just a second, because you have that program, there's sort of that, what you're now doing or envisioning you can do in the camps, the refugee camps around with the border countries. And you said to me before that, music is this bridge. It's clearly a bridge to kind of self-awareness that you're talking about sort of within the children. But then, of course, it can be a bridge between countries and children of different countries. And so I wonder about this latest project that you're envisioning here with Ukrainian refugees, particularly the children.
Absolutely. We've worked together, the board of directors and myself. Well, as you know, we have very deep roots and a very large network in Romania. But if you start down there, sort of on the south and a little bit to the west there of Ukraine, you'll see the small country of Moldova. Actually, when I do my virtual projects, and some of you may have seen that, I have a virtual orchestra and several of my instrumentalists come from Moldova. Then, of course, the country of Romania. I've worked in Romania since 1992. Throughout the entire country, I've worked with every major philharmonic in the country. And I've seen, it's been so fun to see the cities highlighted on TV where they're especially receiving refugees, the city of Bucharest, the city of Brasov. My office used to be in Brasov. Anyway, but moving on sort of counterclockwise around the circle, you come then to Hungary, and then you come to Slovakia, and then you come to Poland. And what we are planning right now is we are planning music camps in each of these 5 countries, large music camps that will accommodate 500 to 600 children. And we want to have about 50% of them be Ukrainian refugees, and about 50% of them be the youth from the host country, so that we build bridges. And that way, within each of these bordering countries, we will build a mass choir of 2,500 children that then can do stadium events with the Philharmonics and rebirth hope and courage and strength in the hearts of the people.
It's just such a fantastic vision. I am 1,000% confident it will be realized, and I am just so inspired by your energy and the path that you're laying out for this. It's just it's fantastic. I want to also just, it's funny because you and I have been talking today about the younger people we work with who are so much more technologically sophisticated than we are. And I also admire your courage, because I feel like you've still, hey, technology is here. And so you've still really stepped in and even just now, even I'm just thinking about your conversations with Connie, and I'm thinking about your musetics. And yeah, I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about, the technology that's kind of crept its way in to help you in your work.
Sure. Well, I'm certainly very much a learner, but when the pandemic sort of collapsed, I was actually packed and ready to leave for the airport. I had 5 camps coming up, all of them large civic opportunities. And of course, immediately that was cut off. And I thought, oh, well, for the next 6 to 8 weeks, I can keep busy writing curriculum, not having any idea that it would stretch on and on and on. And so we decided that we would try something brand new. And by May, of course, the curtain fell sort of on March the 13th. And by May, we launched our first virtual camp, which, much to my enormous shock, was an enormous success. We continued with 5 very successful virtual camps. And what happened is we expanded our reach to 5 countries. We began working in India. We began working in Kenya and bringing those children in to the music camp family, as well as Ukraine, Romania, and the United States. So that was our virtual camp. But then the kids said, it's fabulous and we love it, but it's not enough. We need to do something every week. And I thought, okay, what can we do here? And I got an idea and gave it a name, and it's called Musetics. It's different from anything in the world in that my classes are international. I teach them virtually. I'm here in my office very, very early on Tuesdays because we have students in India in the same class with students in Kenya, in the same class with students in Ukraine and Romania and the United States. So it's a completely synchronous international camp. And Tuesdays we have choir, and Thursdays we have instruments. And our first semester we did recorder, and this semester we're doing violin. So that's an after-school program. It is designed to coincide with the school year. Then came the war. And I realized that what the children and young people needed more than anything was somebody to talk to, somebody to just, that they could even just say, I'm sitting here in the hall and the air raid sirens are going off and I'm scared to death and I don't know what to do. And so I opened my Zoom studio every day. I have not missed a day that I have talked every day with children and parents and teachers in Ukraine. Sometimes to say how you're doing. Sometimes they'll say, oh, I've got to turn off the light because the air raid's going off and we can't have any lights. And then other days we get to talk and have a conversation. And so that has been, I think, a real stabilizing force for many of the young people, to just have a conversation with Connie, to know that somebody outside of their country that's not involved in the war cares profoundly about them. And then because I believe that music is so therapeutic, and because I believe that music can heal their traumas and music can restore their mental health, we have literally just launched, we have finished 4 episodes. We've launched a brand new program called Micro Music Moments. And I call these are short, specialized rehearsals. They're not interactive because many of the times the children are on the run, and they'll get to do 5 minutes now, and then oops, they lose the internet, or oops, they just heard a bomb scare and they've got to run to a bomb shelter, and then maybe 2 hours later it's like, oh, now I can finish my song. So we have just launched that, and like I say, it's called Micro Music Moments. So we are pivoting and expanding virtually. The goal for Micro Music Moments is literally to build a global choir. It's not just Ukrainian refugees. I want children from Asia and from Australia and from South America and North America and Europe, all over. And we will sing songs. Yes, the first one we're doing is Ukraine, and we sing in Ukraine, but in Ukrainian, but we will also sing songs in Spanish and English and Latin, and
Great.
building a global community of children singing together.
It's beautiful. Thank you. I know we have a video coming up that is a virtually created, it's sort of, you've patched in voices and instruments and people really of all ages. I wonder if you want to introduce that. It's the Changing Your World, right? That's I
Right.
think that's
Which
the video.
was
Yeah,
our
I wonder if,
third, I believe it was our third virtual camp in September. And yes, these are children. You will see them from 5 different countries, and professional philharmonic players from Romania, Ukraine, Moldova, New York, San Francisco.
Awesome.
The song Iya Iya expresses the sheer joy of singing and communicating feelings through music. Music is all around us. All we have to do when life gets overwhelming is to stop and listen.
Every child needs to be heard, loved, and cared about.
If I had to choose a song that best captures the essence and the spirit of music camp, it would be We Sing for the Children.
Children who had no choice, but someone
Wonderful. You know, I kind of think about how every one of those faces for you, it just has a story. I mean, you know, we're sort of seeing them and we're hearing them and we're sort of witnessing their kind of interaction. It's just, but everyone is sort of real and yeah, it's incredible. I want to take a moment with you on the screen, with folks having enjoyed the show so far, to encourage people to give generously to Connie and her work. I want to say in advance, thank you for whatever you're able to give. We have a QR code on the screen, which you can just point your phone at and go ahead, and that's a direct donation link to Music Camp International. And I think we're going to run. Yes, we're running a little ticker at the bottom of the screen, so you can be sure to get in touch with them. And Connie, I know you mentioned that you also you encourage people to contact you directly. So I'm going to let you share your email because you said you would give your personal email to people. So I want to let you share it.
I will. And certainly, I would love to hear from you. I would love your feedback. If you have any questions, I would be delighted to answer them. You can always get in touch with me, Connie, that's CONNIE, at, and then one long word, musiccampinternational.org. Yes, there are two C's, MUSICCAMP, international.org. And I would be honored to hear from you.
Thank you. So thanks again, everybody, for giving what you can and for getting in touch. And we'd love to, I'm assuming you have a mailing list, and, you know, it just would be so excited to sort of keep up with your work and just follow the progress and the incredible change and inspiration it's unfolding in front of you. So I want to be sure, it's very hard to imagine kind of wrapping up a show like this because there's still so many stories untold. But I just wonder, is there a story? I know you're going to share sort of an inspirational closing with us, but I also wonder, is there a story? Because we do have a little bit of extra time. Is there a story that
I would love to share just a very relevant story.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that for me has been a huge inspiration over the 20 years that I've worked with the children in Eastern Europe, and now as we are pivoting and expanding to a global organization, certainly we will keep our focus and our projects as we reinstate our on-location camps. But one of the things I love about Music Camp International is when you give, it's not a gift that's here today and gone tomorrow. This gift lives for a lifetime. And I want to just give you a very quick story because it just happened this week. In 2011, I was invited to take a group of 45 children from Bucha, Ukraine, to sing for the Council of Europe. If you've been on the news at all the last 2 weeks, you know very tragically that Bucha has been eliminated from the map. And the school where I went and the school where I invested hours and hours of my life no longer exists. But we took 45 children. One was a young man. His name was Vova. He was an excellent singer. Most of these children either were from a home where they were very vulnerable, or the other thing about the children from Bucha is many of them were Chernobyl babies because of the geography of where Bucha is. Vova came. He was one of my outstanding singers. 10 days ago, I got a message from Vova that he is now a clinical psychologist in Kyiv. He had literally fled Bucha about 15 minutes before he would have lost his life. His neighbor's home had gotten literally obliterated, and he grabbed a bag and ran and got across that bridge that so many of us have seen on TV, ran for his life, and got to West Ukraine. He contacted by email our Ukrainian board member, and said, how do I get in touch with Connie? And so he's gotten in touch with me. And here's the beautiful thing. He's specialized in children's and adolescent psychology and wants to be involved in therapy and in support services for these children as they sort of begin the long journey through the repercussions of war. And so he is going to be our ambassador. We are going to partner with him and provide therapy and support services for our children that need help. But that's a perfect example because that was 11 years ago. And he is still with us and his heart. And he says, I know how it changed me. And now I want to give back. And that is one of the things I see over and over again. We've developed an alumni association literally for students who want to give back, and they are. And that is the thing that is so inspiring. With a gift that is given today, it'll be there tomorrow. It'll be there the next day, and I guarantee you it'll be there in 10 years, in 20 years, still changing lives exactly as it's doing today. And it can help these children as they try to rebuild their lives.
Yeah. Thank you, Connie. Oh, I'm so glad you've been telling me about that story. I'm so glad you had a chance to share it. That's wonderful. I do want to give you an opportunity to close, and the way we're going to do this, just for our audience there, is we are going to offer Connie a moment to close, and then we're going to move right into a particularly poignant video, and that will conclude our broadcast. So I do want to thank everybody for being with us, and I want to give the final moment to Connie, and maybe put her on a full screen.
Thank you. And I'm sorry because the sun is coming. I can see the sun coming in through the Venetian blinds. Let me tell you just a couple of quick things. One of the things that we do, in addition to everything that you've seen, is we do a Christmas and an Easter festival where we really involve the children in a high level of sacred classical music. We do the music of Beethoven and Handel and Haydn and Mozart and Bach and Beethoven. And it's just an incredible opportunity for the young people. And I see it bringing them together. And so many have called, have contacted me, have texted me, and it's like, is there going to be anything after the war? What next? What then? And I was so inspired by what President Zelensky said. He said, we will rebuild our homes. We will build new dreams. Our heroes who have left us will be remembered forever. But we will sing again, and we will celebrate. And when I thought of that, what I thought of was the children singing a song of celebration, a different kind of celebration. This was a celebration when King George VI was crowned King of England. It's one of Handel's coronation anthems, and it is the Alleluia. And I want you, as you hear it, to think, we will sing again, and we will celebrate.